It's time to talk about some Star Wars Rogue One spoiler shit. That is a spoiler warning for anybody who didn't know. I'm going to be talking in depth about Rogue One, which has been out for a week and you should have seen it by now. If you haven't seen Rogue One and you don't want to talk spoilers, I have a spoiler-free review that I will leave in the descriptions below. But until then, we're going to talk spoilers for Rogue One. Obviously, I'm going to start by talking about Darth fucking Vader. Darth Vader is in this movie, and he's only in the movie for like 4 or 5 minutes, so bummer, right? The scenes that Vader were in was so awesome. The first scene that he shows up where he's like in his little receptive tank and the guy in the dark cloak comes in, he's like, hey, Vader. We get to see Vader in a tank where he's like recuperating, and we get to see Vader with his body. They show a body shot, but they don't show the whole thing. I thought that shit was really cool. When Vader came out of that smoke, just walking with all the swag of an evil bastard, I loved it. At the end when Krennic is like, wait, so I'm still in charge of the Death Star stuff? You're gonna tell the Emperor about me? Vader, that force choke he puts on Krennic, perfect. I loved it. Vader easily has the best line in the entire movie where he goes, do not choke on your aspirations. But of course, the Vader scene is the one at the very end. It's the one that made everyone in the theater fanboy the fuck out. The rebels are trying to get the transmission to Leia so that they can send her the plans for the Death Star. It's kind of funny. Vader goes, hey, let's send a boarding party up there. And then he's the only one that showed up. He shows up, he strikes his lightsaber, and he proceeds to waste every single rebel trooper on that ship. He's hacking dudes down left and right. He put a guy on the ceiling and then sliced him in half while he was in midair. Just sitting there in my seat the entire time, just, yes! Yes! I was terrified. I was horrified. I thought Vader was going to come out of the screen and slice me down. It just makes you excited to see more Vader. So when I said in my spoiler-free review that I could have used more Vader, it's true. The fan in me could have used more Vader. But movie-wise, he's in it just about as much as you can expect him to be in it. The movie's not about Darth Vader. We've had a lot of other Darth Vader movies. As a result, I'm not that upset that he wasn't in the movie that much. I feel like he was in the movie for as much as he needed to be. But, as a whiny fan, I could have used more Vader. Side note, that planet that he was meditating on, or resting on, or training on, whatever, is that Mustafar? I have no idea what planet that is. Maybe I missed it, but I don't know. It kind of looked and reminded me a little bit of Mustafar. I don't know. If it is, that's pretty cool. Obviously, the big thing that comes at the end of this movie before that is that all the main characters in this movie, Jyn Erso, Captain Cassian, all of them die. And all of them die in pretty horrible and different ways. A lot of people are like, oh, that's really bold, that's really dark, I'm glad they went there. I wasn't really surprised that they died. I mean, number one, it's a war movie. I kind of figured that almost everybody was going to die in the movie anyways. And besides that, I just kind of figured it would be the easy play and the right thing to do to kill them. I mean, they don't show up in A New Hope or any of the other movies, so it just kind of made sense to me. There's so many really cool Star Wars Easter eggs and references and stuff that ties into the rest of the universe, but they don't beat you over the head with it. It was great to see Mon Mothma back again, leading the rebels. It was great to see Saw from, Clone Wars. Granted, he doesn't really get much to do in the movie. He's pretty much only there to show her a hologram of her dad, and that's pretty much it. They have history. She used to be a part of his rebel extremist group or something. Then he gets taken out, and I don't know. We don't really spend that much time with him, so I didn't really feel the need to bring him up in my spoiler-free review. But the other shit, I mean, Senator Organa and the way that it perfectly ties into A New Hope. Where at the end, Mon is asking him, she's like, do you have somebody trustworthy that you can send that to? And he's like, oh yeah, I trust her with my life. I'm like, Princess Leia. She's going to get the plans at the end of this movie. Sure enough, this movie ends a few minutes before A New Hope with Leia getting the plans after that awesome Vader scene in the hallway. It's very good connective tissue to A New Hope. This movie also addresses a complaint that Star Wars fans have had for a really long time. The Death Star. It's got one of the dumbest weaknesses in the history of everything. It's this big ass space station, and it's got this little itty bitty exhaust port that if you hit, you can destabilize the whole thing. Star Wars fans have complained about that for decades. I've heard that complaint everywhere I've gone. This movie addresses it. Jyn Erso's father is the biggest reason why the Death Star has the weakness it has. It was so great to find out that it was sabotaged from the inside out because they hired a guy who didn't want to build it, but then to protect his daughter, and also because he wanted to basically flick the Empire off for future movies, he basically came up with a way to destabilize the Death Star from the inside out. He said he hid a weakness in the Death Star that very few people would ever find out about. He made plans for it, and that's what basically the finale of the movie is about. It's about Jyn Erso and her band of rebels attacking this base and getting the plans for the Death Star. Side note, during the finale, did you guys notice a whole bunch of Star Wars fighter pilots, they used stock footage or they used the exact same footage or the same pilots that were in A New Hope? We also found out what happened to Red Leader. Did you guys ever wonder what happened to Red Leader? In A New Hope, they constantly reference the fact that, well, you know, a lot of people died to get these plans, and then Luke becomes Red Leader at the end of the movie. I always wondered, who was the Red Leader before him? I'm just curious about that. Now we find out that Red Leader was a part of the Scourge on that planet to get the Death Star plans, and he died. So, again, another thing that ties together very nicely, and it makes a lot of sense. I want to talk about CGI Tarkin for a second. This was also something that people noticed in the movie. Yeah, obviously, when you have a movie that deals exclusively with the Death Star, you have to have Grand Moff Tarkin in there at some point. It makes sense. I mean, it's great to see Tarkin back. Obviously, Peter Cushing is no longer here anymore. Overall, I thought the CGI for him looked pretty good, all things considering. It was a little bit distracting and noticeable at first, but over the course of the movie, I kind of got over it. It's great to see Grand Moff Tarkin back. He has a couple of great lines to let you know that no matter what movie it is, he will always and forever be a dick. I love the war feel of this movie. I love the fact that it felt and played like a war movie, and the fact that they explored both sides of the Rebel and the Empire and how both sides have dirt on them. That scene in the beginning where Captain Cassian is basically trying to find information about the Death Star, and he's talking to a contact, and then he shoots a stormtrooper, and then he basically has to cover his escape by killing the guy that he just got the information from, shooting him in the back and escaping. Yeah, it's pretty rough. I like the fact that even in the Star Wars universe, they showed that war can be a little bit ugly on both sides. In the end, there's just so much to love about Rogue One. I think it really does a great job of tying into A New Hope. Overall, I'm excited for Episode 8. This is a very good in-between type of movie. I do want to see that Vader movie. I do. I'm being selfish. Let me have this. Seriously. Guys, that's my spoiler-filled thoughts on Rogue One. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Seriously, if you haven't, go check out Rogue One. It's pretty awesome. As always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.